Good morning everybody and welcome back into another Christmas themed video here today on the channel. And as we're moving through December, I thought I'd share with you a layout I did just before I started doing stuff here on YouTube. I put a couple of Winter Village sets together and sort of made a rough layout. And I do want to preface this by, obviously this is old now, we're talking about 3 years ago, before the Gingerbread House came out actually, 2019. Or 2018 was it? Oh dear, it feels so long ago. But either way, I thought it was still worth taking a look through these pictures, as I think I did something fairly interesting with it. And obviously that stands out. But as we move through it, you can see it was split into two zones. We had the zone on the right, which was more of the fantasy zone, and then more of a city zone on the left. And while it doesn't make sense now, we're going to zoom in. We also had lights on the ceiling, which was a big deal because I don't often do lighting, but I really put effort in for this one. And here's the first image that I think is important, and while it's been like in every shot since the beginning, here is very clear to see what I did for a backdrop, and that is I took a big Google image and I pixelated it in Studio Mosaic Maker, rendered it out, and then printed it out on A4 bits of paper to create a pixelated and Lego stud snowy landscape. And actually you can see all the studs on there. And I put this round the back of the cupboard where I was going to do the layout, put the light strips on the ceiling, and then that gave me a base to work off for this mock. The next thing I did, obviously, was to get the train in place. Now, in my opinion, while I absolutely love the winter train, it's one of the hardest pieces to display because it's a train. You want to put it on track and therefore you want to move it. And Lego Train Track has a very, very large radius. It's a really, really big to do a curve. And I knew that I couldn't just do a straight because that would be boring. But I also, having the Winter Village station, which you can see in the top right there, knew I had to position that on a straight piece because it wouldn't be on a curve. And I also knew I wanted the zebra crossing, so I was very, very limited in what I could do here. So in this next Bel Air image, you can see that I'm taking my other big element that I used for this build, which was the cotton wool, which I was using to represent snow, because at this point there were no white base plates. I do want to get my hands on some of those. And we put the crossing in, elevated up on the mica block tape, which I'll discuss in a future video, and therefore putting lots of white fluffy bits around them, hiding all the bits and doing underneath the track. This was just generic cotton wool, but the next thing I went to do was fill in this back corner and put the station in, which is another big element of the build, and you can see here that has been implemented in the back left corner. The next one is I thought I should put one of the facade buildings up along the side, and here we chose the toy shop, just blending that in, and you really can't tell actually, to be honest. I think it looks really nice. Adding a couple of these small tree builds and then preparing to move further on down. Next thing I did was deal with the other side, and obviously there's this other smaller train, so I put this at a diagonal coming into the room. We set up the Santa's Village buildings, added the gingerbread house, the small variant, as well as the sleigh, just sort of blocking out the bigger elements before we stick them down and cover it in snow, because it was really hard to put minifigures in particular in the snow, but we'll see that later on. And then I filled in the rest of the gaps. At one point I putting stuff like the Nutcracker and Snow Globe in, however they don't thematically fit, so I'm pretty sure they're going to disappear. We also added a load of little things like a little forest area, a house, I guess, another train station, using the small one from the Winter Village train, as well as, if we look over here, I got all of the market pieces out, all the bits that would sort of suggest Christmas market, and sort of laid them out, or I will be in a minute. I actually motorized the train so it could actually go backwards and forwards down the small bit of track, although that didn't particularly work very well. And I also put the bus in the corner as if it was crossing the railway bridge. See, the big tree I was using was the one from the toy shop, because at this point the 2019 tree hadn't come out. However, nowadays I'd probably use that one. And then we move on to the lighting. Now, as I mentioned, I often don't do lighting in my mocks, however, this was going to be an exception. So I had the lights on the ceilings to represent stars, but I also had this pack of like IR-controlled lights, which I decided that we put in the building. And so I did. I put one in the gingerbread house, 2 or so in Santa's workshop, 1 in the back caboose of the train, and so on. And then it was back onto snow. Now that I'd hidden away everything that needed to be hidden, it was a case of wiring down those big elements so that we could move on to the minifigures. You can see here in particular that I put all these stools out and used them almost as a sort of half barricade for the train tracks, but also creating this nice curved like street vibe, which you could get from like a market. You've got your market Christmas tree and so on. I think it makes perfect sense. We also set up the Christmas tree over towards the left, and there is actually a surprise underneath that, which you can see in this this image, I put one of my 10 IR lights in a blue color and shoved it underneath the tree. So the tree is obviously very elevated and very unstable, but it creates this really nice glow effect through the lower branches. Next, I went and collected up a load, and I mean a load of figures and small accessory builds, most of these coming from City Advent calendars when I was still using them. You can see a vast variety of minifigures, little food elements, dogs, ducks, cars. I've talked a lot about the fact that I really love the food elements, some snowmen, some lamps for the city, a couple of Easter egg characters like Lester with a Santa hat and a gingerbread man, a post box, and then a couple more toys for the elves to be wrapping as well, made out of 24 and 1 set for Christmas back in 2017. I'm not sure if I got the year right there. And then that brings us to this image, and we're going to go and take a close-up look at everything in a minute. However, you can see here the entire layout in one shot, and I think while it's a bit cluttered, it's nice and charming, or at least it would have been back in 2018. Maybe it's a bit different now. Either way, taking a closer look up, we'll go into the village section first, and then we'll take a look at Santa's village after that as well. So with all these blurry images, you can sort of see that the minifigures really do bring scenes like this to life. Down at the market stall, you can see the train is just going past. You can see the inclusion of some of the lamps and workers standing outside with various food items, all using the mica tape to hold them down. In fact, you can see the conductor of the train hanging out on his caboose, as well as if you look in the back, you can actually see we included a ski slope with the leftover cotton wool at the end. We have a lady halfway through decorating the tree. There are lights hanging all around it, and you've got all the presents from the various Winter Village sets hanging out underneath. And you can see that over time the lights did start to fall down because I used masking tape, and that was not a particularly good choice. But there are plenty of more scenes to take a look at, such as these ones over with this lady shoveling snow in the North Pole, an elf which looks a bit submerged, as well as the postbox to take your letters to Santa. You've got Santa in his sleigh with all the toys being piled up ready to go. And then back over in the village, you have the toys being delivered. We have Lester, the Easter egg, on the roof of the toy shop, almost as if he was going to go down a chimney. I put the gingerbread just out in the snow, and this lady is slipping on some ice. She's just sort of like falling over. And we also have these other stalls, such as like the roasting chestnuts, the oven for the turkey wings, this kid's posting a letter. You've got this stall for pastries and pies, which you could buy. You've got a hot chocolate stall with some cookies. There's a wheel carton full of fruit, another post box, a lamp with a lady sat on a bench. This kid that's got a turkey and he's being attacked by all the dogs that want the meat. And then you've got some carolers over by the tree. You've got the toy shop. Just sort of like really fits well. Like I know I hated on the toy shop in a previous Octane's Oracle, but it really does look like a perfect Winter Village building. Like I have to give it that. You've got the train station, which was kept very empty because it was at the back. And then you've got these two kids that are having a picnic on a bench. And I thought I'd take a lovely shot of the front of the train. I really like how this one's settled into the landscape. There's just something about this one. And then you have over in Santa's workshop with all of the snowman building competition. I'd forgotten about this one, as well as a load more presents that are being wrapped and some toys that are being made on the conveyor belt. You've got these two here, which are ice skating on the rink. And then the lit up gingerbread house, which worked really well because of the candy windows. We're moving into some nighttime shots, and of course they're all very blurry because me 3 years ago was no expert at cinematography. So you can see the warm orangey glow from behind Santa's workshop, the pure white glow of the toy shop's LED lights, and then once again the ceiling. And I think that pretty much brings us to the end of our video here today. I hope you enjoyed taking this nostalgic look. I know it's not good and I know the images aren't great either, but we're getting close to Christmas and I wanted to share it with you because the longer I leave it, the more out of date it becomes. And hopefully maybe next year or so, I might be able to do another proper Winter Village layout with the gingerbread house and all the new promos I've acquired since then. That would be a lot of fun. I think I could enjoy that. But in the meantime, consider subscribing and I will see you all on Friday. Bye-bye.